I'm Caleb.
I'm Braden.
And this is Koresh Korner. It's going to be a brief history of the cult leader of David Koresh.
So David Koresh was born in Houston, Texas on August 17th, 1959. And he had a pretty rough childhood. He was born to a teenage mother. And after various traumatic experiences in school, like bullying and whatnot, he became really religious. And that's when he started getting into the Bible.
And then he claimed that God spoke to him and that he was like the chosen one. He was the Messiah. And this led him to become a religious leader of a cult that would later end up in a deadly standoff with the FBI and the ATF that ended in a big fire with 86 people that died.
And during his kind of reign, I guess, the government was just they were kind of always suspicious of him whenever he had control over Waco. It wasn't always him that had control, but whenever he was in control, the government was kind of watching him pretty closely. And their main concern was the Branch Davidian stockpiling weapons and illegal explosives.
Yeah, to outsiders, Koresh was like a cult leader with like extreme beliefs, and this created tension in the surrounding cultures, like in and around Waco.
And then kind of social life, kind of around Mount Carmel was where they were. It's out based in Waco, Texas. They had a compound out there. And whenever families would come to this place, Koresh would have control over like the wives, the children, and he was the only one allowed to have sexual relations with women and children. And because he felt like it was his religious duty, I guess. And he really restricted like a lot of their own like personal freedoms and rights.
Yeah, the strict rules matched with them being completely isolated in this compound. He had a very knit, small community, and most of the followers genuinely believed that Koresh was the chosen one, and that their group was God's chosen few.
So some of his key policies with his little reign in Waco was that it was only he could interpret the Bible. None of his other followers could. It was only him. He made the scripture and he voiced it to his followers. And then another one of his things he had his followers stockpile as many illegal weapons and explosives as they can, and they were also manufacturing weapons illegally. That was eventually going to lead into a holy war that Koresh believed was about to happen.
And then all these rules and stuff left an impact on his followers. They're physically in pain, distressed, very anxious, but they didn't leave because their loyalty was so strong, and it was also based on a foundation of fear of Koresh, because the things he would do to the people that wouldn't coincide with his beliefs.
So how he was able to kind of pull this off was he was a very charismatic. He was a pretty knowledgeable guy. He knew what he was talking about when it came to scripture and things like that. But he was really invested in revelation a lot, and his ability to make a strong community, and his ability to lead groups through hardships and hard times was pretty good.
Where his leadership fell short, some of his weaknesses was he abused the power a lot, for his personal gain, with marriages and relations with minors and stuff. His response to when the FBI and the ATF were raiding his compound, his hostile response to that eventually caused his and most of his followers deaths. And he stood his ground as the chosen one, and he wouldn't be skewed anyway. And then the way the FBI and ATF responded to the standoff led to anti-government movements, and Waco became a rallying city. What started with people were scared of Koresh's cult, and then the way the government responded to that made everyone flip and get mad at them for killing the innocent people in there.
So as Caleb said, this sparked a lot of distrust in the government, and the guy behind the Oklahoma City bombing, Timothy McVeigh, he was actually there at Waco selling anti-government stickers and flyers just from the hood of his car during the standoff while people were sitting there getting shot. He was selling bumper stickers and flyers, and they were all just stuff about not trusting the government's tyrannical, and just he was deeply enraged by it. He was mad. And then exactly 2 years after Waco happened, that's when he decided to bomb the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, which killed 168 people, 19 children, and that day specifically he chose was to avenge Waco.
So to kind of wrap up this podcast, we can see that unchecked authority is dangerous, while a mismanagement of conflict will increase crisis.
And kind of a cultural insight on this, future small religious groups were really scrutinized because of David Koresh, and public and federal law enforcement had a lot of time getting trust back from the citizens because of this. And then the siege kind of showed the world that governments need to be ethical in a way by protecting rights and freedoms of religious groups, and they need to stand against extremism and injustice.
Okay, so now for the most important part of this podcast is how it connects to Macbeth. So David Koresh and Macbeth are like quite similar, as they both were driven by ambition and like desire for power, and then once they got that power, they abused that power, and they like used manipulation. And then our sources are credible because we use credible government records, trusted news sources like PBS, ABC, first-hand interviews with survivors of Waco, and we also had photocopy letters of what David Koresh sent to the FBI and ATF during the 51-day siege. And yeah, so that's David Koresh. That's Koresh Korner.